Your hands are the only tool you need. That's it. That's the whole secret. You've been sold a shed full of gadgets you never had to buy. Down in Lancaster County, where I was raised, my grandfather grew more food on a quarter acre than most folks grow on a full one. And he did it with no rototiller, no fancy sprayers, no bag of blue powder from the store shelf. Just his hands, his eyes, and a few tricks his own father handed him. I'm going to give you 25 of them today. Every single one needs nothing you'd have to drive to town and pay for. And here's the part that'll sting a little. The companies selling you all that equipment, they have no reason to tell you any of this. They never did. Because a man who knows these tricks stops spending money, and a man who stops spending money is no good to them. Stay with me. Right around the middle, I'll show you the one trick my grandfather used to bring a half-dead tomato plant roaring back to life in about a week for less than the price of a cup of coffee. Folks paid him for that secret. Today it's yours for free. Before we start, do me one small favor. Drop your growing zone or your state down below. Just type it in. I read them, and it helps me know who I'm talking to and what grows where you are. Now let me take you back. I can still see my father on his knees in the spring mud, the smell of cold dirt rising up, pressing 2 fingers into the soil before he'd plant a single seed. He never read it in a book. He felt it. And that feeling fed 11 children through winters the English would call hard. So let's begin where he began. The first thing the modern world gets wrong is digging. You've been told to turn your soil every spring, break it up, till it deep. Folks buy machines that cost more than my first buggy horse just to do it. But here's what nobody at the store will tell you. Every time you turn that soil, you're tearing apart a living thing. Under your feet, there's a whole world. Fine white threads, thinner than a hair, run through good dirt like veins. Scientists call it the mycorrhizal network. We just called it the living web. Those threads feed your plant roots. They carry water and food from one plant to the next. And when you till, you rip them to shreds. Cornell University put numbers to this. They found that no-till soil held up to twice as much water as soil that got turned every year. Twice. That means half the watering, half the work. In a dry July, that's the difference between a garden that wilts and one that stands tall. So here's your first trick, and it's the easiest one you'll ever do. Stop digging. Lay your scraps and leaves right on top of the ground and let them rot down where they sit. The worms will pull it under for you. They do the tilling for free while you sleep. My people have farmed the same ground for generations without wearing it out. The English wonder how. This is how. We never broke the web, but healthy soil that sits bare is still soil you're wasting, which brings me to the next thing. Look at the ground in a forest. You will never see bare dirt. Never. It's always covered with fallen leaves, needles, old bark. Nature does not leave the table bare. And every inch of bare soil in your garden is an inch that's drying out, baking hard, and growing weeds. So cover it. This is trick number 2, and it costs nothing. Mulch with what you already have. Grass clippings from your own yard. Fallen leaves you'd otherwise bag up and throw away. Even old newspaper or plain cardboard laid flat and wetted down. Lay it 2 to 3 inches thick around your plants, not against the stem. Leave a little breathing room, then watch what happens. The soil underneath stays cool and damp for days. The weeds can't find the light, so they give up. And as that cover rots, it feeds your dirt for next year. The University of Florida ran this test and found mulched beds lost far less water to the sun than bare ones. The mulch acts like a roof over the soil, a roof you didn't have to buy. I remember raking leaves as a boy and thinking it was the most useless chore on the farm. My grandfather set me straight. He said those leaves were money, and we were the only ones smart enough to know it. He hauled every bag back to the garden. The neighbors hauled theirs to the curb. Now, covering the soil keeps the water in. But what about getting water down to the roots in the first place? Because that's where most folks waste the most. Here's trick number 3, and it's older than the tractor. You've seen the soaker hoses at the store? $20, $30. They clog, they crack, they rot in the sun. My grandmother watered her tomatoes with something she already had in the trash. A clay pot. The plain kind, unglazed, the reddish-brown ones. You bury it in the ground next to your plant, up to the neck, and you fill it with water. That clay is full of tiny holes you can't even see. The water seeps out slow, right into the soil, right where the roots are, not on the leaves, not in the air, straight to the thirsty roots, an inch at a time. This isn't some new idea. They've found these buried pots in old farms going back 2,000 years in China and North Africa. 2,000 years. The English just rediscovered it and put a fancy name on it. We never stopped using it. One pot can water a plant for 3 or 4 days on a single fill. In the worst heat of summer, that's a garden that won't die while you're away at a wedding or laid up sick. No clay pot? Use a plastic milk jug. Poke 4 or 5 tiny holes in the bottom with a needle. Sink it halfway into the dirt beside your plant. Fill it. Same idea. Slow water, deep down, no waste. And that brings me to something most folks never think about. They water the top of the soil and the roots stay shallow, hunting near the surface. A plant with shallow roots is a weak plant. One hot day and it's done. So here's trick number 4. Water deep and water seldom. Not a little every day. A lot twice a week. When you soak the ground deep, the roots chase that water down. Deep roots find water in a drought. Deep roots hold the plant up in a storm. You're not just watering. You're teaching the plant to take care of itself. Now we've handled the dirt and the water. Let's talk about the thing the store wants to sell you most. Plant food. Walk into any garden center and you'll see a wall of it. Boxes, bottles, bags, blue crystals, green pellets. Some of it costs more by the ounce than a good steak. And here's what burns me. Most of what feeds a plant, you are throwing in the garbage every single morning. Trick number 5. Your coffee grounds, don't toss them, spread them. Coffee grounds are full of nitrogen, the very thing that makes leaves grow thick and green. They feed the worms, and the worms feed your soil. Just don't pile them thick and wet in one spot, or they'll cake over. Sprinkle them thin and work them in, or toss them right in the compost. Trick number 6, crushed eggshells. Save them, dry them, crush them up fine. Eggshells are almost pure calcium, and calcium is the cure for that ugly black rot you get on the bottom of your tomatoes. Blossom end rot, they call it. It's not a bug, it's a calcium shortage. Work crushed shells into the soil before you plant, and you head it off before it ever starts. Trick number 7, banana peels. Bury a banana peel a few inches down near your roses or your tomatoes. As it breaks down, it feeds them potassium, which is what makes a plant flower and fruit. My mother did this her whole life. She never bought rose food once, and her roses climbed clear up the side of the porch. The English are only now putting these things in studies. The Penn State Extension has written plain and clear that kitchen scraps composted return real nitrogen and minerals to the soil. They're confirming in their reports what my grandmother did without ever reading a word of it. She used to say the good Lord doesn't make garbage. Only people do when they throw away what still has life in it. Now, you've been patient with me, so let me give you the one I promised. The trick that brings a sick, yellow, half-dead plant back to life in about a week. This is trick number 8, and I want you to lean in. Epsom salt, the same plain stuff, folks. Soak their tired feet in, a few cents a use. You'll find it at any drugstore. When a plant goes pale and yellow between the veins of its leaves, while the veins themselves stay green, that's not a death sentence, that's hunger. It's starving for magnesium, and Epsom salt is magnesium and sulfur, nothing else. Here's exactly what you do. 1 tablespoon in a gallon of water, stir it till it's gone, then pour it right at the base of the struggling plant. Once every 2 weeks, no more. You'll see new green push out in days. Magnesium is the very heart of the green in a leaf. Without it, a plant can't catch the sunlight and turn it into food. It quite literally starves in the middle of plenty. Give it that 1 spoonful, and you've handed it back its appetite. My grandfather kept a bag of it in the barn. When a neighbor's tomatoes went yellow, he'd walk over with a scoop, and that neighbor thought he was some kind of wizard. He wasn't. He just knew what the leaf was telling him. Now you know it too. A word of caution, because I won't steer you wrong. Epsom salt only fixes a magnesium shortage. It's not a cure-all. Don't dump it on everything. But for that yellowing between the veins look, it's the closest thing to magic you'll find for pennies. Now, here's where it gets bigger than one plant. Because once you understand that a sick plant is usually a hungry plant or a thirsty plant, you stop reaching for the bottle of poison every time something looks wrong. And that, friend, is exactly what an entire industry does not want you to learn. Let me tell you about the bugs. The store will sell you sprays to kill everything that crawls, but most of those bottles kill the good bugs right along with the bad, and the good bugs were doing your work for free. Trick number 9. Plain crushed eggshells again, but scattered on top this time, sharp edges up. Slugs and snails won't crawl across them. It's like a field of broken glass to their soft bellies. Free fence, no poison. Trick number 10. A shallow dish of cheap beer set in the ground, rim at soil level. Slugs love it. They climb in, they don't climb out. 1 pie tin of the cheapest beer in the store will clear a bed of them overnight. Trick number 11. Plant marigolds along the edge of your vegetable rows. Their roots put out something in the soil that drives off the tiny worms that attack tomato and bean roots. The University of Florida found certain marigolds cut those root pests way down. A flower that works as a guard dog. And it's pretty besides. Trick number 12. Bury a few cloves of garlic between your plants or make a spray. Soak crushed garlic in water overnight, strain it, and mist it on your leaves. Aphids can't stand it. Neither can a lot of the chewing bugs. It's a wall of smell they won't cross, and it washes away clean. Trick number 13. This one my father swore by. Onions and carrots, planted side by side. The smell of each one confuses the bug that hunts the other. The carrot fly can't find the carrot for the onion. The onion fly can't find the onion for the carrot. They guard each other. Old-timers called it companion planting, and the English have spent good research money proving it true. Now, I can already hear some of you. You're thinking, this all sounds fine for a man starting a fresh garden, but mine's already in. My beds are set. My yard's been the same for years. What about me? I hear you, and I want to talk to you directly now, because most of these tricks were made for exactly your situation. You don't need to tear anything out. You don't need to start over. You work with what you've already got standing in the ground. Here's something you can do this very weekend with no digging and nothing to buy. Take a good look at your established plants, the tired ones, the ones that flowered strong years ago and have slowed down. Most folks figure they're just old and done. They're not. They're crowded and they're hungry and sitting in soil that's been used up. So feed them from the top down, the way the forest does. Don't dig them up. Just lay a 1-inch blanket of compost or rotted leaves right over the soil around them, out to where the branches reach. That's where the feeding roots are. Not at the trunk, out at the edges, the drip line we call it. Then water it in. That's all. The rain and the worms carry that food down to the roots over the next few weeks. You've fed an old plant without disturbing a single root. And here's trick number 14, just for the established garden. Stop pulling every weed by the root. When you yank a big weed out, you tear up the soil and bring 100 new weed seeds to the surface where the light wakes them up. Instead, cut the weed off at the ground with your fingers or a flat edge and leave the root in the dirt. The root rots and feeds the worms, and no new seeds get their wake-up call. You'll have fewer weeds next month, not more. Trick number 15, also for ground you already have. Find the wettest, shadiest corner of your yard, the spot where grass won't grow. Stop fighting it. That's your free water spot. Plant the things that love damp shade there instead of fighting nature in the sun. Work with the land you've got, not against it. My grandfather never planted a thing where it didn't want to grow. He said the land tells you what it wants if you'll just stop and listen. Now let me give you a few more quick ones because they add up fast. Trick number 16, save your pasta water and your potato water. After you boil them, that water is full of starch, and once it cools, your plants drink it up gladly. Just let it cool first. Never pour it hot. Free food you were about to send down the drain. Trick number 17, a rusty nail or an old piece of iron buried near a plant whose leaves are going pale and yellow. Some plants go yellow for want of iron, and that old nail rusts down slow and feeds it. My grandfather kept a coffee can of bent nails for exactly this. Nothing on our farm got thrown away. Nothing. Trick number 18, cinnamon, the plain spice from your kitchen cupboard. Sprinkle it on the soil of your little seedlings. It stops the mold and rot that kills young plants overnight, the thing gardeners call damping off. It's a natural fungus fighter, cheaper and safer than anything in a bottle. Trick number 19. When you transplant a seedling, pinch off the very bottom leaves and bury the stem deeper than it was. Tomatoes especially. Every bit of buried stem grows new roots. More roots, stronger plant. The store won't tell you that because a strong plant doesn't need their rescue products. Trick number 20, pull your tomato suckers, those little shoots that sprout in the elbow between the stem and a branch. Don't throw them out. Stick them in a jar of water for a week and they'll grow roots. Plant them. You just made a brand new tomato plant for nothing. One plant becomes 5, 5 become 20. My family never bought tomato plants twice. Trick number 21. Hardwood ash from your wood stove or fire pit, used light. A small handful worked into the soil around plants that like sweet soil. It carries potash and lime. But go easy, just a sprinkle, and keep it away from your potatoes and your blueberries, which like it sour. Used right, it's the same lime the store sells you in a bag, except it came free from your own fire. Trick number 22. Plant in blocks. not long single rows. Tuck your plants close in a square patch instead of stretched out in lonely lines. Their leaves grow together and shade the soil between them. That living shade keeps the ground moist and chokes out the weeds. You grow more food in less space and you do less weeding. The English call it square foot gardening now. My grandmother just called it not wasting good dirt. Trick number 23. Pick your beans, your peas, your cucumbers often, even the small ones. Here's the secret. A plant's whole purpose is to make seed. Once it finishes a few big fruits and makes seed, it figures its job is done and it quits. But if you keep picking before the seeds finish, the plant keeps trying. It keeps making more. The more you pick, the more you get. Most folks let the first ones get huge and wonder why the plant stops. Trick number 24. Pay attention to where the sun crosses your yard and plant your tallest things, your corn, your sunflowers, your beans on poles on the north side. That way they don't throw shade on the shorter plants. A little planting with the sun and every plant gets its share of light. Costs nothing but a few minutes of watching. Now, before I give you the last one, the best one, let me say plain what's been happening here. Look back over everything we've covered. Coffee grounds, eggshells, buried pots, leaves, a spoon of Epsom salt. Not one thing on that list came from a store shelf with a price tag. And yet there are whole companies, big ones, built on selling you a fancier version of every single one of these. They take what nature gives away free, put it in a bottle, slap a picture of a tomato on it, and charge you for it. It isn't that they're lying, exactly. It's that they have no reason to ever tell you the cheap way. A man who feeds his garden from his kitchen scraps is a man who walks past their whole aisle without slowing down, and there's no profit in that for anybody but you. My people were never their customers. Not because we were too proud, because we never needed to be. We had the soil, the scraps, the rain, and the knowing. And the knowing is the only part they managed to take from most folks. We just never let go of it. So here's the last one, trick number 25. The one I saved for those of you who stayed. This is the one that sounds too simple to matter until you try it. It's about your seeds, and it's about the cold. Most folks buy new seeds every single year, and they start them indoors, under lights and on heat mats, fussing for weeks. But there's an old way, a plain way that nature has done since the beginning, and the land-grant universities have a name for it now. They call it winter sowing. Cold stratification. Here's the whole thing. Many seeds, the hardy ones, your kale, your spinach, your lettuce, your wildflowers, your poppies, actually want a hard, cold spell before they'll wake up. In nature, a seed drops in fall, lies in the frozen ground all winter, and that freezing and thawing is the signal that tells it spring is safe. Without the cold, some of these seeds just sit there confused. So you give them the cold on purpose. Take an empty milk jug, cut it almost in half, leaving a hinge. Poke a few drainage holes in the bottom. Fill the bottom with a few inches of damp soil. Sprinkle your seeds in. Tape it shut. Leave the cap off so rain and snow can get in. And then here's the part that stops people cold. You set it outside in the dead of winter, in the snow. You let it freeze. You let it thaw. You let it sit out there through January and February while you stay warm by the fire. That little jug is a tiny greenhouse. The snow waters it. The cold wakes the seeds on nature's own clock. And come spring, you lift the lid and find a jug full of Strong little seedlings, tougher than anything you ever babied indoors, ready to go straight in the ground. No lights, no heat mat, no windowsill crowded with trays, no electric bill. Oregon State's Extension and others have written plainly that this cold period is exactly what these seeds require to break their rest. The science caught up to what the old farmers always knew. You don't fight the winter. You put the winter to work for you. I watched my grandmother do a version of this with seeds in a cold frame against the south wall of the barn. She just let the snow do her work. The English would buy a contraption and plug it in. She set a jar outside and waited. And every spring, her garden came up before anyone else's on the road. That's the whole secret of these 25 tricks, if you want to know it. It was never about working harder. It was about stepping back and letting the soil, the worms, the rain, and the cold do the work they were made to do. We just got out of their way. So think about what you've really gotten back today. For years, maybe for your whole life, you've been quietly told that growing food takes money, that you need the machine, the bottle, the bag, the gadget, and every year you reach for your wallet, a little piece of something got taken from you. The knowing, the plain confidence that you can feed yourself from your own ground with your own two hands and what's already in your kitchen. You just took it back, all of it, for nothing. And that's who you are now. You're not the kind of person who keeps overpaying for what nature hands out free at the back door every single morning. You're the kind who looks at a banana peel and a coffee filter and a jug of snow and sees a garden. That's not being cheap. That's being wise. That's the oldest wisdom there is. Now do those two things for me before you go. First, if you didn't already, drop your state or your growing zone down in the comments. Just type it in plain. I want to see where everyone's growing, and it tells me what to cover next. Don't be shy. 1 or 2 words is all it takes. Second, if any one of these 25 was new to you, tell me which number surprised you the most. I read them. I answer when I can. And folks helping each other in those comments is half of what makes this worth doing. If you've gotten this far, you're one of us, not a subscriber to a channel, a neighbor in something older than that, a handful of people quietly remembering the plain way of doing things while the rest of the world keeps paying full price for it. So come along, stay close, because next time I'm going to show you the one thing my grandfather did every fall after the harvest was in. That meant his soil came back richer every single spring instead of poorer. Most folks do the exact opposite, and they wear their gardens out in 10 years. He never did. 40 years on the same ground, and it only got better. I'll show you exactly how. Take care of your soil, and it'll take care of you. That's the whole of it. See you next time. Now that you can grow more with less effort, let me show you the old ways our grandparents used to feed their families off the grid. These forgotten tricks still work beautifully today. It's starting right here.